All right, guys, a little bit of an update. It's kind of been a slow week around the garage here, at least. I had a short week. We went out on a little getaway this weekend, and I was waiting on parts for the big block Chevy. I got the correct 3/8 guide plates, the correct polylocks for the rocker arms, and come to find out the push rods that were provided again were probably for they had to have run aluminum cylinder heads on this thing because the heights, the push rod lengths are different, but I did manage to get the one set to work, so I only need 8 for the exhaust side, and we should be good. The intakes had a good pattern with a 9.150. I had some 9.125s that were 5/16, and 25 thousandths in height isn't a whole lot, so we were still within a good pattern. So that again is at a standstill. Last week I did drive the Olds. I took it to work, even though it's only a 2-block drive. I got to beat the crap out of it in the parking lot, loading it up, doing a burnout, kind of running it through the gears. At a first gear pull, it pulls great. This thing has all kinds of throttle. It wants to rev. But the brakes are my biggest concern right now. I did readjust the drums. Hopefully it's just that. Now, if they still don't feel good, I'm just going to go ahead and upgrade to the Wilwood setup and go to a 7/8 master cylinder. Right now, I'm running a stock GM 1-inch bore, and guys have told me it works good. Maybe my drums were just that far out. I was used to power drums. I got a little bit of drag on them now, so hopefully that works out good, and we can get the car to the track maybe if things work out good. If not, then no big deal. Ultimately, the car's all together, it's running, we can hit it next year. Give me some time to do other things. So, the other thing I guess I wanted to talk about was, now I've been on the forums, Facebook friends, on the page and stuff like that, and not a lot of people know the history of this car. I've had this car for over 10 years now, and it's kind of got a little bit of a unique history to it. And it's actually kind of how I got into Oldsmobiles. Very early on in my career in the trade, doing collision repair, a guy who took me under his wing had a 72 Cutlass that was sitting outside his barn. It was a redheaded stepchild. It was the only car that was sitting outside. And at the time, I was actually building a Buick 350. I've always been a small block guy, so I was actually building a Buick 350 that we pulled out of my dad's '84 Buick LeSabre. And I was going to rebuild it, and I got to the point where I kind of started to get everything. I actually had a few things machined. I started putting it all together, and I was looking for a car to put it in. And down the street from my parents' house, there was a '78 Malibu. So I was talking to him about this, and he's like, "Hey, you know, that's pretty cool, but have you thought about maybe something else?" He's like, "I got this '72 Cutlass that runs." So a couple weeks went by, and this was senior year in high school, so this was about 11, 12 years ago. And I go over there, take the battery out of my old Caprice, can of gas, and it fired up. Out of all the cars I've ever looked at, I never did that. Usually everybody had the car, the old school techniques, you know, you warm the car up so that nothing goes wrong. Of course, you're going to have your run issues when the car's cold, but this car started out as a rot box. I bought it as the basis of, I guess, this was my college education. My dad ended up buying this car for me for $2 grand. And I used this to learn, to do body work. And I kind of embraced that mentality to just learn. So because of this car, I've learned, you know, I've learned to build my own engines. Even though back in high school I kind of knew how to put stuff together, I've really learned to build engines because of this car. Tuning and all of that. Build my transmissions. Although I did not build the rear end of this car, I have done rear ends for other cars. But setting it all up, this is pretty much all done here. I did all the body work. Really good friend of mine sprayed it for me. It's not perfect, but I don't want it to be, because as things come to me, things have gotten better. This is probably the best this car has looked aesthetically and performed its best. The engine bay looks clean. there's a couple little bit of wiring that I could clean up, but it's not major. The underbody, I mean, this car was media blasted. I replaced sections of the floor pans. There's so many stories behind this car. A year after I got it done, I wrecked it. I went to a fiberglass front end, and those fiberglass fenders I ended up selling, and I went back to steel. A friend of mine picked these up in Lake Geneva for me. I bought these for $100. They were beat. They were dented. Both noses were crunched. They were in like 6 inches. I straightened them out. From the inside, you couldn't tell. I reworked these. The bottom sections of these replaced rust. These doors, I replaced one, but both had brand new door skins. And I haven't put the trim panels back on yet. You can see some of my window trim there, but I actually took out the crash beam, which some people think that's unsafe, but in reality, it's just a big bar of mild steel. That actually is more of a projectile than anything, because guess what? If you get in an accident, that bar goes through the door, that impact bar, it's going to go right through your arm. It's just mild steel. It does nothing. On new cars, yes, it's much more crucial on new cars because it's usually high-strength steel. It's actually designed to do something. And these cars, they were just kind of putting parts and stuff to reinforce the car in accidents. Like these crumple zones on the fender, which I always thought were funny. They have them on this flange. But there's nothing else here. It doesn't really help. This part is actually stronger than the fender, so this little crush zone dimple is like almost pointless. But either way, I've had the car for like 10 years, and I've been very open. I always post on forums my success, my failure, my issues. I've always been very open about that. I don't have an image to kind of per se uphold. I'm just a dude doing stuff. And as the years have gone by, people have trusted me, and people reach out and I help them. And I'm always willing to help people out. It's harder now as I've gotten older, I've gotten busier. I've always been very open about what works for me. I don't tell people what's going to work if it hasn't worked for me. There's some info that I may kind of regurgitate, but I usually say, hey, that's from this source. That's not for me. Take it with a grain of salt. And usually, if I do give out advice based off of my experiences, I will say that's what's worked for me. And that's kind of one of those things that I always that's really peeved me lately. I see a lot of guys, especially out, I guess with Facebook, everybody's got a group for whatever they're into. And you see a lot of information that's given out, and so much of it is just like hearsay, and it's like, did that work for you, or did you just like regurgitate something you read offline or on a book? So I guess my point in this post is like, this car took years to get to this point. Now, could I have built this car like this? Because this is ultimately kind of what I had in my mind back when I got this car, but it took me over 10 years to get it to this point, but I've been able to enjoy it. But if I let little things bug me, I wouldn't have it at this point, or with the knowledge. I think I would have spent a lot more money. I don't think I've ever wasted a dime on this car. I've learned so much. You carry those skills with you, and you can pass it on to somebody else and help somebody else. I'm a big believer in karma, especially in this hobby. I work on a tight budget, and I tend to help out guys that are right there with me because I've been there, people have helped me, and when I can help people out, I will help them out. If I can. I mean, I'm not going to overstep my abilities, and I will tell people, hey, this is something I've never done, but chances are I guess people have trusted me even in that scenario. But I guess my thing is don't give up. Just keep going. Because if I gave up back when I didn't do the framework, when I found out that I almost sold this car back in 2014 for nothing because the frame needed work. I didn't have a lot of money, and I went back to steel fenders and found out like the body was sunk into the frame. So I took the body off the frame in this garage with cherry pickers, and we patched it up. Oh, hey, Finn, what's up? You guys say hi to Finn. He's just running around. Go outside. So either way,
I almost sold it. And little did I know that 4 years later it would be where it's at. Always be willing to learn. Don't settle for letting somebody else do something for you. Even if somebody helps you, pay attention. Learn, because this is ultimately why I'm able to gain trust from people. This is like my rolling resume, if you will, for everything I do. If anything can justify my abilities, it's this. Even for my trade. You know, I've had guys, you know, hey, can you help me with this? I've never broken in a cam. I've never done this and that. And I've helped people out, when I can. And so just, biggest thing, guys, is like I said, I'm a firm believer in karma. Just keep it going. If somebody needs a hand, give them a hand. When it comes to this, I don't worry about the money, because ultimately in this hobby, there is no payoff. There is no money in it unless you own a company or you're highly competitive in racing. Now, when it comes to like body work, what I do for a living, most people want to save a buck, and I'm not the guy for that. Why? Because I've learned through years of doing side jobs that it doesn't really pay. What you take home is not worth your free time to do it in your free time. Because although it's my free time, it's worth something to me, because guess what? I got 2 days of the week, for the most part, to do my things. And even then, like, I've been working on that and flipping between this and that Ford small block I did, and then I got a bunch of other parts up there for another small block Ford. And between all that, we've been doing, you know, planning our wedding, which my camera won't, you guys can't see, but it's hard. But you know, don't, especially in this hobby, don't think that you're alone. It may take a while to click with the right people, but you know, for me, it's worked out. I've hooked up with the right people at the right time, and it's helped me out a lot. I've learned a lot. You know, like my buddy Dave ported the cylinder heads and the intake on this car. Could I have done it? Yes, but I let him take over. I did some body work to his car. It was a very mutual thing. You know, everybody kind of got something out of it. And ultimately, would I have liked to port my own cylinder heads? Yes, I know what to do now because I actually got to see him do it. And next time I'd be more willing to do that. But at the time, it was, you know, means to an end. You know, I helped him, he helped me. So I think a lot of guys, it's starting to get lost because a lot of guys are willing to pay for convenience. A lot of guys are like, oh, I'm just going to send the engine out because I don't want to deal with the headache. You know, I want an engine in 2 weeks versus 2 months or 3 months. You know, I think people are, there's a lot more people in the hobby that are willing to pay for convenience than take the time and have the struggles and the headaches. But guess what? Those struggles and headaches always turn out to be experience if you pay attention and you learn from your mistakes. There is no such thing as failure. Failure is, you didn't learn anything from it. You just band-aided it and went. Or you didn't fix it at all. So guys, I guess that's my little mini rant, kind of letting you guys know where this car has come from, kind of whatever little things I had going on this week. Next week, we might see completion on that, and I may put a little bit more miles on this, but for now, things are kind of calm. I may have to dig out one of the transmissions, maybe do a video about that. I got 2 transmissions that are apart in the basement, which I actually mentioned on probably one of my first videos, but again, as always, busy, stuff happens, and if we get out to the track, you guys will see videos of that. So guys, keep watching, keep following, subscribe on YouTube, Copper Cutlass, follow us on Facebook, Copper's Garage. It'll kind of help everything make sense because, like I said, I do a lot of pictures. It's hard to make videos in between, and there's updates on YouTube. If there's anything you guys want me to do as far as videos, give me suggestions. I'm all ears. Actually, just remembered in the next couple of weeks, Pop's backed into a car. Didn't do crap to his Durango, but he smashed in the door out of some piece of crap Cavalier. and the people were trying to hustle in for money. So we ended up getting a door from a junkyard. It needs a little bit of body work. We need to paint it to the correct color, so we need to edge it, paint the outside. We'll be doing that. That'll actually be a pretty cool body segment, which for a body guy, we haven't done anything body related. So if that's something that viewers out there are interested in, let me know. I can get some small projects going here like that. Thanks again for watching.